In the bustling city of prosperity, there lived two very wealthy men. Now, when I say wealthy, I mean they had the kind of money where you don't just check your bank balance checks on you to see if you're okay. The first man was named Mr. Arthur Generous. He was famous, truly famous, for his open heart and even more open wallet. He believed that if someone was hungry, you give them a 5-course meal right now. No questions asked. His philosophy was simple. See a problem, throw money at it. And the people loved him for it. Who wouldn't? Free food is a great deal. On the other side of town lived Mr. Ben Mentor. Ben had the same amount of money as Arthur, but you wouldn't always know it. He wasn't followed by cameras or cheering crowds. Ben believed in a different kind of help. He thought, sure, I can give you a fish and you'll eat for a day. Or, I can teach you how to fish and you'll eat for a lifetime. But he took it even further. He'd say, let's not just fish. Let's figure out how to build a boat, start a fishing business, and maybe even open a seafood restaurant. He was playing the long game, a very, very long game. So you had these two forces in one city. It was like a social experiment with a massive budget. On one hand, you have Mr. Generous, the hero of the moment. He was the city's emergency relief fund, a walking, talking ATM of kindness. If there was a fire, he'd pay for the repairs. If a family couldn't afford groceries, his truck would show up with enough food to feed an army. His actions were immediate, visible, and always got a huge round of applause. People would put his picture up in their homes. He was a local saint. Then you have Mr. Mentor, the quiet gardener. He wasn't handing out cash, he was handing out knowledge. He opened workshops to teach people coding, carpentry, and how to run a small business. He would sit with them for hours, not just giving advice, but listening. He helped them write business plans and gave them tools, not as gifts, but as investments in their future. His work was slow, quiet, and didn't make the 6 o'clock news. There were no cheering crowds, just the low hum of people learning and working hard. The city was home to two very different kinds of hope. Every Friday, it was like a festival in Mr. Generous's neighborhood. He would set up long tables, and his staff would serve hot meals to hundreds of people. The line would stretch for blocks, filled with grateful faces. Children would get toys, and parents would get bags of groceries to take home. The feeling was incredible. It was a wave of pure, instant relief washing over the community. For a day, nobody had to worry about where their next meal was coming from. Mr. Generous would walk the line, shaking hands and smiling. He was a superstar. The impact of his giving was felt immediately. A family on the brink of despair could breathe a little easier. A person living on the streets had a warm meal and a clean blanket. This was not small stuff, it was life-saving. The local newspapers called him the Angel of Prosperity, and his reputation grew far and wide. Politicians wanted to be seen with him. He won awards for his charity. The city looked good because he was in it. He solved problems the way a firefighter puts out a fire, quickly and effectively, leaving everyone feeling safe for the moment. But here's the thing about that Friday festival. When Saturday morning came, the tables were gone. The people who ate on Friday were hungry again on Saturday. The problems that led them to that line in the first place, lack of jobs, no skills, no opportunities, were still there. Mr. Generous's help was like a painkiller. It stopped the hurt for a little while, and that was very important. But it wasn't a cure. It treated the symptom, which is poverty, but not the disease that caused it. The line of people never seemed to get any shorter. So, while he was loved, a pattern started to form. People in his part of the city became very good at one thing: waiting for Mr. Generous. Their survival often depended on his next act of kindness. It was a cycle of dependency. He gave, they received, and the situation reset until the next giveaway. His charity was a lifeline, a very important one, but it was also a tether. It kept people afloat in the deep water, but it never taught them how to swim to the shore on their own. The community was grateful, but it wasn't growing. It was just surviving. Meanwhile, across town, Mr. Mentor's world was much quieter. There were no long lines or big festivals. Instead, you'd find a small group of people in a workshop, learning how to write code for a website. Or you'd see him at a cafe, listening intently as a young woman pitched her idea for a catering business. He would ask tough questions. What's your budget? Who are your customers? How will you be different from your competitors? He wasn't giving them answers. He was helping them find their own. This process was slow, sometimes frustrating, and it definitely wasn't glamorous. His impact wasn't visible overnight. In the first year, maybe only a dozen people completed his programs. A few started small businesses. One person, a woman named Maria, used the skills she learned to open a small tailoring shop. At first, she only made enough to support her own family. It wasn't a big news story. It was just one family that no longer needed to stand in a food line. But then Maria hired her neighbor, and then another. Her small success was a quiet ripple in the community, a tiny seed of change planted in the ground. Over the next few years, these seeds started to sprout. The coding class graduates began working as freelance web developers, bringing new money into the neighborhood. The carpentry students formed a co-op, building and repairing homes. Mr. Mentor's initial investment of time and resources was multiplying. He didn't just give one person a meal. He helped create a system where dozens of people could buy their own meals. His work wasn't about a single act of giving, but about building a foundation for many future successes. This kind of change was deep and lasting. It was transforming people from recipients of aid into creators of value. They weren't just taking from the economy, they were adding to it. They gained not only skills and income, but also dignity and self-respect. They became role models for their children and neighbors. Mr. Mentor's part of the city began to change, not with a sudden splash, but with a slow rising tide. New shops opened, homes were improved, and the community started to solve its own problems. It was a quiet revolution of empowerment. For a long time, the city saw Mr. Generous as the true hero. His name was on everyone's lips. He was the symbol of compassion. Mr. Mentor, on the other hand, was barely known. Some people even criticized him. Why is he making poor people work so hard? They'd ask. If he really wants to help, why doesn't he just give them money? The public preferred the instant gratification of charity. It was easy to understand, and it made for a much better story. A photo of a man giving a child a toy is more powerful than a photo of someone learning accounting. But after a decade, the difference between the two approaches was impossible to ignore. The part of the city helped by Mr. Generous was still struggling. The lines for his Friday giveaways were as long as ever, maybe even longer. The people were incredibly grateful to him, but the area remained poor. It was a community stuck in a state of permanent gratitude and dependency. They loved Mr. Generous, but they couldn't move forward without him. His kindness, while well-intentioned, had become a crutch the community couldn't walk without. In contrast, the neighborhood where Mr. Mentor had worked was thriving. It was buzzing with activity. The small businesses he had helped start were now medium-sized businesses. The woman with the tailoring shop now owned a small factory. The coders had formed their own tech startup. They were hiring local people, paying taxes, and contributing to the city's growth. The area had fewer people in poverty because it was now full of people with skills, jobs, and opportunities. They didn't need a handout because they had built their own way up. Ultimately, the city learned a powerful lesson. Charity, like Mr. Generous's, is essential for emergencies. It's the first aid that stops the bleeding, but it cannot be the long-term cure. For a society to truly develop, it needs empowerment. Mr. Mentor's approach, helping people build their own futures, is what leads to sustainable growth. It's the difference between giving someone a fish and teaching them how to build a fishing fleet. One solves the problem for a day, the other solves it for generations. True progress doesn't come from a handout, it comes from a hand up.